Welcome back to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Steve Mantis, and my guest is Raph Shay with Ecosuperior. So, Raph, just before the break, we were talking about energy audits, and I just want to touch on this again before we move to the next topic. So, with the price of energy going up and up and up, a person may say, hey, I'm willing to spend $300 to get an audit. How do people know whether actually they'll get a payback from that? Is there some way that they can understand or say, hey, geez, within a year or 2 years or 3 years, I figure out what I need to do. I take some steps and invest another $100 or $500 or $1,000 on weather stripping.
Yeah.
When will I be able to, recoup my investment? Is there a way for people to figure that out? Or
well, simple payback is obviously a hard thing to calculate when the energy cost is your metric, and that's always changing too, right? So that's a hard one to give you an exact number on. But some general guidelines. So a newer home built to the newer building code standard is going to be pretty efficient. We're getting really good, and the revisions are happening more and more often. So newer homes probably don't need to do this. Homes built before 1980 are a third as efficient as newer homes now.
A third only?
A third.
Oh my gosh.
So the potential gain on that front is huge. It's huge, and that's because that's where we really moved to the 2x4 to the 2x6s. So there's more insulation in the wall. But yeah, that's before 1980 has some potential. Most definitely.
And it's interesting, just through my own experience, I've got an owner-built home, and I mentioned this addition. I just put a new door in.
Yeah.
Well, the weather stripping I put in was a style I'd never seen before, and it seems to work so much better than what I've used previously.
Yeah.
So just the changes that you're talking about in what the technology is, folks like me who've been around for a while may see there's some real improvements in what's available.
Yeah, well, and building quality like we used to always helps too.
So your whole area, really, you're looking at kind of the issue of climate change, green buildings, and also you're involved in the issue of transportation. So what are we seeing in terms of how can we impact climate change, here in our own lives in Thunder Bay?
Yeah, the transportation is a really sticky one. Ontario's emissions on the energy front have gone down dramatically because we've shut down a lot of our coal power.
Okay.
And we're investing heavily in renewable energy and
news
energy efficiency. Yeah, it's amazing. Transportation is hard to deal with, right? The electric car isn't really the mass market item that it needs to be if it's really going to replace gasoline on that front. So Thunder Bay in particular has about 30% of our emissions are transportation related. So that's a huge piece of the pie that we don't really know what to do with other than modal shift. So that means getting people to ride the bus more, to start walking around more, carpooling and riding their bikes. So that's really one area where we're focusing more and more now because it can make a huge difference. And just I think a couple weeks ago we had the Commuter Challenge, first time in Thunder Bay that we had this effort coordinated, and it's a national challenge that happens across the country, and we finished first in communities around 100,000 people. Yeah, we had
no kidding.
I think almost 600 people participate. So that was great support from transit. They gave us a whole bunch of transit passes for the week, so that was a huge success, and it just kind of shows that people in Thunder Bay are willing to step up to the challenge. They can do it. We've got a great cross-country ski culture in the winter. In the summer, we just need to shift that to active transportation, ride your bike a little bit more and walk around a little bit more. And then the other piece of that is getting offices to start having showers and locker rooms so that people who commute to work actively can change and, clean a little bit from the sweat that they've generating during their exercise.
Right. I mean, I never thought about that before. So really,
we're seeing it.
We've got a pattern of driving everywhere in Thunder Bay. And so really you're saying we need to rethink what our pattern is and try to take step by step to see how we can change that pattern and put less greenhouse emissions out there.
Yeah, and we're not a big city. The distances that we're traveling most of the time are really reasonably done by bike or by walking. So.
And you're an active biker too, I understand.
Yeah. I've got my winter bike with little mud guards and everything, and this winter was pretty snowy, so I did enjoy the skiing quite a bit, but it made cycling hard. Yeah, and now I'm riding around mostly. It's great. I get my exercise while I'm moving around, so yeah.
So you save on the gym membership.
Yeah.
And get where you're going.
And oxygenate the brain too a little bit.
And what about, you know, one of the issues people might say is, well, geez, it takes me so long to, you know, to take the bike rather than the car. What's your experience around that?
Personally, it's really not that big of a difference, especially when you're going downhill. Going uphill is
Port
a little
Arthur,
different.
you're good.
Yeah. No, it's really not that bad. And if you start counting the time that you're going to go parking, then, you know, like, yeah, it really cancels itself out. And ultimately, too, it's just about leading a healthier lifestyle. So there's studies out of the UK that just came out where people who ride their bikes to work have half as many sick days as people who drive their car to work.
Oh my goodness.
So the wellness difference is huge, and that's where we're seeing a lot of, you know, the sports complex has a lot of accent on trying to get people to be more active there. There's all the nurses at the Thunder Bay District Health Unit that are working on this nonstop too. And Thunder Bay is going to do a new transportation plan in, I think, a year or two. So we're really hoping to see, well, like all cities around the world, you know, this is becoming a more important way of how we design our cities. And obviously, we're a car culture in Thunder Bay, so there's some transition and some growing pains on that front. You know, I think for a long time, people are, for most people, we're afraid to ride your bicycle on the road because the cars aren't used to having bicycles on the road. But the Highway Traffic Act actually says that bicycles are vehicles, and unless you're a kid, you're not allowed to be riding on the sidewalk, so you have to be riding on the road. Okay. So there's a lot of learning that we have to do to learn how to share the road safely and securely. And that's where a couple of years ago, we started a program called Safe Cycling Thunder Bay.
Okay.
So we've been training about 400 people a year, kids and adults, experienced and beginners, on the rules of the road, just building some skills.
And so what are the most common mistakes or tips that we should give to, you know, people just really getting into cycling and want to use it as a way to get around town?
I think the whole sidewalk thing is a really important one, because riding on the sidewalk is way more dangerous than people think. You know,
really,
people think that the sidewalk is the safe space and then on the road is dangerous, but most accidents happen when you're transitioning from one space to another. So like a driveway or an intersection. Drivers are trained to look for cars on the roads. You know, the sidewalks, they're used to just pedestrians that aren't moving really fast. So a cyclist that's moving fast on the sidewalk and going into an intersection, yeah, that's where most of the accidents happen. So if we can switch to the road, then that'll be a big piece in terms of trying to avoid a lot of these accidents.
Great. Really good tips. So we're just going to take a break and we'll be back very shortly. Please stay with us.
Cool.